The purpose of a meeting, any meeting of a family, is to grow its spiritual, social, intellectual, and human self, with the financial capital supporting the growth of the four qualitative capitals.
There may be no idea more important to legacy work than this one. The true wealth of a family is its well-being. Long before most advisors were talking about rising generations, family meetings, values-based planning, J. Hughes was immersed in this work. He gave the industry a language for it through the 5 forms of family capital and a responsibility to think beyond money. Welcome to Visionary Advisor. I'm your host, Alex Kirby, founder of Total Family. In this episode, I'm joined by James E. Hughes to talk about wealth as well-being, what it looks like in practice. We explore family meetings, engaging the rising generation, the roles of stories, and how to talk to children about money. Jay is the first ever 2-time guest on the Visionary Advisor, and it's not an accident. If you care about helping families flourish, this conversation is foundational. Let's dive in with James E. Hughes. You've been doing this for 59 years.
That is correct.
If you had to sum up 59 years of this work, because sometimes I'll say to the wealth advisors, you're not going to be Jay Hughes after one webinar. So if you had any advice for people who are just starting to learn about legacy, just learning about J. Hughes, the 5 forms of capital and some of your work, do you have any advice for someone who's just dipping their toe into the water?
I would offer 2 thoughts. The first is that there has been a tragic mistake in use of words in terms of their meaning in our field. The word wealth that we use all the time meant in English, starting with Anglo-Saxon English in about the 4th century AD, the word wealth meant well-being. It has never meant anything but that. In the recent times, this word was taken for advertising purposes, because it means well-being, to mean money, or what I call financial capital. That's not incorrect, but it is not the proper use of the word, and if you use it to mean money, then you're indicating to the listener that that's all it means. So I would say to the person entering our field, Alex, if he or she can begin their journey of service to other people with the word wealth meaning well-being to them and when they use it, and use financial capital when they mean money, they will have made an extraordinary consciousness raise in the face of wealth meaning money. It doesn't mean money, it means well-being. The second thing I would say to people starting out is read a little book called Where Are All the Customers' Yachts? This is a 35-page book. It will take you less than half an hour, but it will orient you forever to who you are in this work. So those would be my beginnings. And frankly, when I talk to young people or middle-aged people who decide they'd like to help families flourish, those are the 2 places I start. One is pretty philosophical. What does wealth mean? What is the etymology of the word? And the other is very practical. Where do you stand with reference to your clients and your purpose and their purpose?
The words matter, right?
We are matter and words matter, yes.
Yeah. I think that matters in the context of, people talk about mission statements or value statements or purpose or vision and all these different things. And I think one of the things we try to do is bring a little clarity to some of those words so that they're not just used interchangeably, because if we're using them interchangeably and they lose some of their meaning, I think it cheapens the work that you're doing with families.
Words are pictures, and they're designed when you hear them to create a picture in your mind and then a memory. And then the memory comes back to the front and you see what that word means. Obviously it's happening very, very rapidly, but that's what we're doing in our brains. If we don't use the word to mean the picture we want to convey, then we haven't communicated, have we?
Yeah.
We've missed each other. And that's a tragedy. How often do we actually have a real conversation with another person? So if we're going to have a real conversation, and we're going to have clients, we're going to have people responsible for, we're agents for them as principals, We want them to have pictures in their minds that are the pictures we're trying to convey to them so we can have a good experience with them. Yeah, that's the way it works.
Jay, when we were doing a little bit of prep discussion, we started with a couple points. You hit on one of them. True wealth is well-being. You're not going to hear anything different from you and I on that front. But you have a way with words, and you say families create plays, not plans. What is that?
Alex, this is such fun. With a couple of colleagues, we're working on a new book, which will be out in a few months. And we're going to introduce the world to the reality of its actual shared life experience. If you take PLA and you remove N and you replace it with Y, so PLAY, play, you actually have human experience. Humans don't live in plans, they live in plays. The problem of plans is they're sterile.
Yeah.
They're not living, they're not dynamic, they don't deal with the reality of human experience. The other problem with plans is the wisdom of Napoleon, who said when the first bullet is shot, the plan is done.
Yeah.
There is wisdom from a great general. And then somebody the other day said, "Oh, Jay, you should give an even more physical sense of what you're talking about." So what did Mike Tyson say? Mike Tyson said, "All the plans for the fight and the world disappear the first time we get punched in the face."
Right.
Now it's a play.
Can I give you another one?
Please.
Have you heard Eisenhower's quote that plans are worthless, planning is everything?
Yes, exactly.
We're not being disparaging of the work of planning in any way, I think, when you say this, but
No.
you're trying to bring people to the reality of the situation, right?
Yes, and to try to make more humane or humanize it, what we like, people's experience of their reality. Their reality is they're in an act in a play, and if they give themselves permission, they see their 2 or 3 previous acts.
Yeah.
Oh, and then wouldn't you like the next few acts to have a certain outcome, a certain plot? By the way, back to purpose. Is the purpose of one of the purposes of your play that wealth is well-being? That's a purpose. Well, then the plot has to say, let's see if we can achieve that. A plan's fine, but it's sterile.
Yeah.
I think that part of where we've got off track, plans and plays, is that in the era of STEM education, which began in around 1972, STEM works well with the left hemisphere of your mind. It counts, it measures. The problem is that the neuroscience is that the right hemisphere of your brain, which doesn't have speech, but which sees truth, beauty, good, is dominant. The problem of plans are they don't turn on the dominant part of your mind.
Well, I think in that sense, they give people comfort, right?
Yes, but then they don't turn out.
It's not the reality of it.
The first bullet is shot. The plan's no good. You get hit in the face. Whatever model you like, it isn't reality. Reality is we play. And by the way, that's a nice pun too. We play in plays.
Yeah.
Is a much more joyful. Can you feel how much more open that system is?
Right.
Because play is creativity, right?
Yeah.
Play is discovery. It's dynamic.
Well, it's improv.
Yeah. Well, that's how human beings live.
Right.
We need systems that support how we actually live, not systems that support some alternative universe that actually isn't present.
I had a boss that never liked scripting, for meetings. And he would always say that the problem is the other person doesn't have our script. You go to say your first line and someone interrupts you and tells you that something is more important or something happened or they want to go a different direction. And all of a sudden you need the ability to stay in the play.
And let me take this one step further. Alex and I are interested in this question of family flourishing over many generations. That's what we're interested in. That's what we're talking to you all about this morning. Let me just remind you in this play plan way of thinking how families begin. Adam and Eve. Oh, 2 people who are otherwise unrelated, except by DNA, no blood, decide to make a promise to each other. And what is that promise? What is the premise and promise, if you will, of the play? It is, I will help you unconditionally, hoping that you will do that for me, but I can't know. All families begin with an unknown.
Yeah.
These promise, I promise you unconditionally, I will help you unconditionally, I love you unconditionally, but I'm selfish. I'm hoping your promise to me will turn out to be true, but I can't know. There's no plan for that.
Yeah.
That's a play, isn't it? And that's a play we want to go and see over and over. How did it turn out? What happened to the promise? Was it maintained? Was it broken? Was it fudged? What do you mean? Well, that's purpose. That's, by the way, that's a spiritual decision.
Yeah.
Plays are the thing, as Shakespeare said.
I want to go to, so you talked about broken promises, you alluded to broken promises. And so what I thought we could do for this episode is I'm going to read you some quotes from your own book. As I told you, your foundation. I think Jay should be pretty comfortable with the material I want to cover. But in Broken Promises, speaking in the reality of things, you say, tell the family stories of success and failure. It's good times and it's hard times, making sure that the rising gen family members have a chance to learn these stories and one day share them with their own children. Because I think it's natural to want to tell the story of all of our successes, but why is it so important that we tell the stories of our failures?
Well, I've just said that every family begins with a set of promises, intentions. I would even call them aspirations. And that word, back to words, comes from the Latin ad, A-D, to spiritu, to spirit. So families begin with aspiration. Would you agree?
Yes.
And the aspiration is large enough that it inspires them in spiritu.
Just like a company, just like when you're,
exactly.
It's an idealistic idea that is getting us started.
And is it big enough to inspire you? So you take action. There's lots of aspirations just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But these aspirations inspire us. So now we're inspired. And then we have to perspire for many generations. It's a lot of work involved. That's the stories. So the stories in family are about how the promise worked out. What happened to that original promise? And then if we go back generations, we begin to understand what underlies our capacity to keep the promise. What are the stories that we bring to that promise? And that promise then contains all of the past stories, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of the past generations. How did their promises work out? What happened? The story is your tapestry. It's the weaving together of all the different lines that make up the story. And then how does your tapestry grow? And then the image I love is, are its colors primary colors and strong, or are they getting to be weak colors? Can we feel the energy coming in the play, or can we feel the energy diminishing in the play? The great problem of all families and around the world is entropy, are there stories leading to inertia between those future rising generation members, so there's no family because the bonds of the promises disappear?
Yeah.
Or are they stories of dynamic energy regeneration coming in? Are the colors rich? This is the great question of story. Story is your play, and it's grounded in that first promise. Can that promise be maintained? How is it maintained? Who joins in? By the way, are we a welcoming family or not? Has a huge amount in the second and third act, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just think for a moment of the family play in which a character in the play in an early generation looks at the arriving members of the family, not those born, but those coming in, as enemies, outlaws, people who will steal my financial capital.
Right.
That play is done. That's a tragedy already.
Yeah.
There's no future promise for someone to join that family.
We've heard that. I'm sure you've seen that in governance documents, right?
All the time. And it's a disaster.
Do you try to talk people out of that?
Well, the first thing is I don't want the play to be a tragedy.
Sure.
I'd like the play to be a comedy. And again, that's not a ha-ha. It means that at the end, however you define the end, the players are standing together.
Yeah.
They're in association. There is a promise that continues. You can imagine coming back to the theater and the play starting again, and there's new promises, but it's the same basic promise. I will help you unconditionally. I hope you'll help me. Recently, I was writing a paper on welcoming family because I felt it was necessary for me to say something in print. So I opened the paper saying, this is quotes, this is what I teach. Okay, this is what I ask the family to subscribe to. We welcome you with open hearts and minds and thank you for choosing us. That's a great play beginning.
Yeah.
Now you feel the energy is positive. We welcome you, open hearts and minds. And then the second clause is really important. And thank you for choosing us. Which doesn't mean they have chosen away from the family they came from. Not at all. It is that they are making a decision not only to marry this person or commit to them,
Yeah.
but they're choosing to be a part of something.
I heard Coventry Edwards Pitt, she moderated a panel of rising gen who came from ultra high net worth families. And one of the things that she said that I think is really consistent with what you're saying is this person that comes in outside the family, many times, when they meet your son or daughter or grandchild or whatever it is, this is one of the first people in their life that see them as a standalone equal.
Yes.
It's the first person that doesn't see them as a derivation of something else, and they choose each other.
Yes.
And when you don't take the welcoming approach that you're talking about, you set up this dichotomy where you're essentially saying, are you picking your new partner or our family? And all these rising gen individuals I heard speak said that was so hard on our relationship. And I contrast that with what you say in the book, the idea of taking someone in and saying, you're now part of our tapestry. Tell us your story so we can weave it in. It's such a different way to think about it.
I know that the future of that family depends upon this statement. I'll go that deeply. The future of that family and the next acts of its play depend upon it being a welcoming family and it being honest to be amazed that someone has chosen us.
Yeah.
It's not choosing away from your family of origin, not at all. It is that you're making a choice that is beyond the choice of the person. And of course, that's true. But if we think about it, again, if you're not welcoming, you must be not welcoming. There's no neutral position here.
Yeah.
And if you're not welcoming, you're writing a tragedy. Just imagine in the lawyer's office when the plan, coming back to plan and play for a moment, is being written. And the financial capital creator is saying to the lawyer, now, I'm very sure the people my children are going to marry are going to try to steal my money. So will you please write a plan for me that assures that that won't happen?
Right.
The tragedy begins in the lawyer's office.
Yeah. Most tragedies do. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, and being a sixth-generation lawyer, let me just tell you, I have done everything, my father before me, everything we could in the work we've done with families, not to write tragedies, if we could help it.
One of the things that we hear from when we work with ultra high net worth families in single family offices and people who have amassed large amounts of financial capital, we have found that they are tremendously private. And I think there's a level of discretion that if you're going to be an advisor moving into this area, you have to really understand that level of discretion to the point where if an advisor is sitting there referencing a family that they work with, that person is thinking, well, I'm never going to work with them because I don't want them to, share. So do you have any guidance for advisors around discretion? And could you name some of the families that you work? No, I'm just kidding. Could you give them some advice about navigating that environment of extreme privacy and discretion? Anything that you would counsel?
There is a clear choice. History offers much, much evidence of this. Between choosing a career as a person of affairs and choosing a career as a person of confidence. Choosing to be a man or a person of affairs, you are basically saying, I will help you intermediate your financial capital. That's all I will do. At that point, discretion is probably really relatively unimportant.
Right.
If I choose a path as a person de confiance, I'm choosing a path as a great number two to make someone else a greater number one. I'm choosing a role of agent to a principle that is very deep and dangerous, by the way, because it's very intimate. So one has to ask oneself, Alex, with all the traditions in profession, where do I fit? What kind of promises will I make to the client? So if I choose the path of intimacy, which is fabulous for me in terms of how I grow, how I discover who I am, I'm making some profound promises of confidentiality.
Yeah.
In that role, I mustn't take the chance that inadvertently I have said to someone else something I shouldn't say.
Yep. You're the number two, elevating the number one. Our marketing team, when we sign a new family office or an RIA or whoever we're working with, our marketing team will often say, oh, let's post about it. And I always think, how does that help them? That helps us. If you're bragging about the fact that you work with this family or whatever, to me, that's number two looking out for number two, not number two looking out for number one.
Yeah. And let me just illustrate what you've said beautifully, because I think it is how you are building your company. There's a very, very clear distinction in the service field between firms that count assets under management and firms that count souls under management.
Yeah.
This is the great differentiator between person d'affaires, a company of affairs, intermediating financial capital, and a company dealing with the confiance question, which is helping human beings flourish. It's a different function. And the souls under management firms, they are all about what they can do to promote the well-being of their clients and all the forms of well-being. So it's it's a different journey. And I want to always say to young people, when you're thinking about your career and you're thinking about how you'd like to be at 59 years in, which of these paths feels best to you? And I make no distinction. So yes, of course, I have lived a life as a number two, seeking to make one, because I chose it. And I was given this same advice that I'm offering today, 59 years ago. What is your path, young Mr. Hughes? In asset under management firms, the clients understand that the business proposition is I pay you for financial intermediation. You don't care who I am, I don't care who you are. I pay you for a service. In a souls under management firm, if that firm is acquired, the only thing the client says is, don't change my representative.
Right. Right.
You do that, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
There's the acid test.
That's right.
And I'd also say something with a little bit of a smile, a little Cheshire Cat smile. Souls under management firms expect the people who work in them to be on the client's side of the table.
Yeah.
What did he say? What?
By the way, I do that when we go to meet with our partners. I always sit. Usually when we go into the meeting, they'll be on separate sides of the table, and I'll get in there and I'll scoot my chair closer to them.
Yes.
So we're on the same team here. So I thought we'd might as well be on the same side of the table. And usually they laugh, but I'm not joking.
Oh no, and to make this physical, yes, not only you're not joking, Alex, but make this physical. When I had an office in New York City, which I did for many years, I organized it in such a way that my desk faced the wall, not the clients, so that when the clients came, I just turned my chair around and we were together.
Yeah,
there was no barrier.
God, I don't know if you've ever talked about this. I had a boss that I loved, and his computer faced like this sidewall. And when you came into his office, he would turn
Yes.
and it would
Yes.
just be him and you. And you felt so welcomed and heard when you spoke to him. I still keep in touch with him. It was always just like a very powerful act to me.
Well, first, it's good manners.
Sure.
And good manners are actually useful. There's a reason for manners don't exist for any other reason so that we can communicate better. That's the purpose of manners. But of course I did that, and the man that you worked with did that. We didn't do it as an affectation or some marketing. No. When the client was there, he's number one.
Sure. He did it every time. Every time.
Who needs a barrier between you as the number two serving that person? Be with them.
Jay, I'd like to talk about the rising gen versus the next gen. And I want to read you a quote from the book. And I think we need to figure out how hard we need to push back against this in the industry, because I'd still say it's 80-20 people referenced as next gen. So here's the quote. More often, people refer to the next generation in families with wealth or family business. We recommend you eliminate the term next from your vocabulary, at least as it refers to generations. Next puts the emphasis on what came first. And again, that's parents or the wealth creators. They are the important ones. Everyone else is just next.
Alex, I'm going to start my answer on rising and next by wanting to remind the audience of something that was horrible for the first maybe 35 years of my work. Language, as we started our conversations this morning, means everything. I came into a world in which I was constantly accused of dealing with the soft side. And I spent those years arguing for the qualitative side being far more dominant than the quantitative. I won that war.
I feel accused now in 2026, so I can't imagine, this is probably you in the late 80s telling people that this is important, right?
And more important than the quantitative.
Yeah.
That the human, intellectual, social, and spiritual path of a human being, okay. So I think we've won that war. But now we're fighting more wars, words wars, just where we started this morning. The words matter so much. No one wants to be next.
Yeah.
I've never met that person. Now, it is true on a left brain world, a STEM world, it is true that person is next in order.
Right.
But that's a plan. Human beings in plays, there's no next.
Right.
You're rising or you're not.
Well, I think it goes to this element of continuous. Rising is just a continuous way to think about it, right?
It's the truth.
It's never ending.
Right, and it's true.
And it never began.
Exactly. So It's true. So if we're looking for truth, that's the true situation.
It's so interesting because it's like the next or the first generation that they talk about, it's like, well, what about those people's parents? Did they do anything to help them be successful? Like did Henry Ford just appear?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or were there people there before him that laid the groundwork and helped him become Henry Ford? The thought that Henry Ford is I understand they generated a ton of financial capital, same as Sam Walton. Right. But when you hear those people talk and you hear about their stories, Sam Walton will talk about his father-in-law. And he'll talk about all these people that came before him. I don't think Sam Walton would have said he was first.
No, there isn't first. I think that's exactly right. That's why it's a play again, not a plan. A plan assumes it's a first. Then you can have a second and third. That's a plan. It doesn't work. It's not true. The other reason why I love the word rising is we all want to rise into something. Feel that there's energy in that. You're rising into a play. And in that rising, you yourself are important.
That's right.
The next is a flat inertia word.
Right.
It's a plan word.
So do you think that if you're an RIA, a family office listening to that, I mean, we're seeing these terms there's people, their official title is next generation person, that
Just
their
wrong.
program is called Next Generation. So would your recommendation after doing this for 59 years to be change it?
Well, not only would I say change it, I'd say eliminate it. Look, I'm going to be very frank here. The advantage of the word next, if you're trying to pander to a quote first generation wealth creator,
Right.
is obvious. But then do understand you are pandering.
That's right.
And person d'affaires may be comfortable pandering in an advertising world.
Mm-hmm.
Person de confiance never panders.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a number one greater than he or she would be by pandering, can you?
Right. And you hear, we talked about how many rising gens are not using their parents' firms.
Right.
This isn't happening at the great firms, as you and I both know. But at the lion's share of the firms, you hear when that person refers to the firm, they will sometimes say, my parents' family office or my parents' firm or my parents' advisor. And that words do matter. And that is a signal that they do not feel that you are looking out for them. You're looking out for them conditionally or pandering, as you say, right?
Yeah. And let's add in another word here that I think is also comes in this rising. If a human being takes energy and turns it into matter, into financial capital, that's a very unusual action by a human being. Shouldn't be possible in a certain sense, but a small percentage of people in the world do that. So that's done, by the way. The making of the fortune's complete. The rising generation issue is integration of meteors. The meteor represents what you receive from someone as a gift or a transfer from outer space, because you have nothing to do with the generation of that matter.
Yeah.
But you have an enormously complex integration problem of integrating something someone else created that has nothing to do with you at all.
Right.
The term rising for all future generations reflects that they have one thing in common. Each of them will have an integration issue.
Mm-hmm.
The play is about that promise that we talked about, and then it is about the integration issue, how it worked out. These are the two realities of every play. So if I'm rising into the receipt of the meteor as a normal event within that play. How I integrate it is very, very personal to me.
More on this in Complete Family Wealth, right? There's a lot. It's a very helpful metaphor. If you're listening right now, if I was you and you're like, I'm not totally sure what they're talking about meteor-wise, it's really well said in Complete Family Wealth. And I think it's just a nice way to think about, because it is, sometimes it's money, but it's also what that person, it could be that person standing in the world and the expectations that they bring.
Yes.
There's a lot in that meteor, but it makes it like a meteor, it makes an impact.
Right. I am not inheriting financial capital. I am inheriting a whole series of relationships.
Yeah.
Not only
and expectations.
Yes. And not only my relationship to the person who sent the meteor, but all that he or she combined in their previous lives.
Yep.
I'm inheriting a whole series of relationships, not simply money. So rising, to just sort of type this off, if you think for a moment, if we think together of how a family has a series of play acts leading always to comedies, in the sense at the end of the act, the actors are standing. The problem of the next act is, does the rising generation bring with it new energy? Or is it static? No play has a future act if it's static, because that's inertia. The word rising feels inside, oh, I'm bringing energy, doesn't it?
I think I hadn't really thought of this before, but it's like you want it to be like Lorne Michaels in Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Right? Where there's new energy coming in at an integrated level, and it's this ever-evolving thing.
Yes, and a tragedy is a family in which the energy is dissipating. It's running away. A comedy is a play in which new energy is rising. That's a play people want to be in.
Jay, the two probably most common questions that we get, our last two things I want to cover here is talking to kids about money in family meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Many parents ask, when should I start telling my children about our wealth? They mean financial capital. There is no one time, nor is there just one message. In general, people wait too long and share too little out of fear of doing harm. Waiting is only natural, as we all want to do best for our children and not make mistakes. And you touch on this in a couple ways, but I would sum up your general advice is people are waiting too long and sharing too little. Is that fair?
Yes. Well, Freud said that the most adjusted, that is, happiest people he met, he used the word adjustment, were those who learned to love and learned to work. And by work, he meant vocation, by the way, not labore vocare. He meant vocation. Then he went on to say the two great interferers with happiness and adjustment are sex/gender and money. And money is the worst of these two because no nice person will speak of it. Mr. Freud got this one absolutely right. Freud was a pioneer, so some things he didn't get right. Jung had to fix it up, and Rogers, but this one he got absolutely right. So the first thing we have to understand is that talking to anyone else about money is hard.
Yes.
That Freud, not Hughes, Freud said that. And he was right. All my life experience is right. So this is a hugely charged subject.
It's in the most difficult category along with, sex, death.
Yes,
it's 10 out of 10 difficult.
Yeah, incredibly difficult. By the way, 80 to 85% of divorces are over money. This is just huge. It appears all throughout so many different parts of our lives. The second thing I wanted to say, for us to be very, very clear, is in the time of social media, your children are learning about your fortune every day.
Right.
They are curious about it because it's a secret. If it's a secret, they think they will spend all their time trying to figure it out. All wasted time. I hope everybody can hear me. Secrets waste your time.
Yeah. Well, they can, if you're a public figure, they're going to know who your parents are. Your house might be larger than other people's. There's all these signals. Children are not starting very, very early. Right?
No, yes.
Children are not unaware.
Right. The question is, when does the great reveal, that's the term we use in our field, occur? And we tend to think of the great reveal as a first meeting at which we discuss our financial affairs with our children, perhaps including our grandchildren, depending on when we begin this process. What I want to make very clear is everybody knows everything you think is a secret. If you don't come at it with that mindset, you'll miss the meeting.
Right.
And let me see if I can give you a story from my own family. Back in 1999, I had cancer on my face, lymphoma. I recovered from it. Thankfully, I'm here. And I thought it was time for me to have a great reveal with my children and my grandchildren. And we were going to a nephew's wedding. So I told the kids, look, I'd like to have a family meeting. We didn't have any experience of this, really, a real meeting. I'd like to talk to you. Well, we get to the venue for the meeting. I am very excited about being able to share with them and treating them as adults. And they came into the meeting, Alex, with the longest faces you could imagine. I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on here? I was overwhelmed by the sadness and what's going on here. I missed completely. They thought I was going to tell them I was dying.
You call this innocuous meeting to do their grave reveal, and they think
I'm dying. I'm going to tell them I'm dying. Yeah. Okay. So
right away, you understood that
Well, it took me about 5 or 10 minutes, and then there was a universal, "Oh, you're not dying, Dad." Look, this is human beings in a play.
Yeah.
I had a plan, by the way. If there's ever an illustration of where a plan died when the first word was spoken, that's
one of them.
Real life. So the best advice about money in family I was ever given was at a program I attended almost 30 years ago. And a brilliant young woman said, if you want to know how to deal with your children with money, this is what you do. In the store, the first time the child says, I want that, and you do not want that child right away to have that, you do not ever say, you can't have it, we can't afford it.
Mm.
That lie you can never recover from.
Right.
You lied. She said the most important advice is to say, we choose not to have it now. We choose not to have it now. Oh, my God, Alex, has that saved me and my clients all kinds of agony. But the one thing I've repeated again, you never say is we can't afford it, because it's not true.
I want to share one other thing from the book that I think people find very, very helpful. In these initial conversations and the reveal, as you're starting to talk about it, I think a lot of people sometimes are thinking like you have to walk in with a, brokerage account and show them all the stuff, right? But you have this example where you say, if you're talking to your children, many families you can point out do not have enough. Some have just enough and others have more than enough. We are very fortunate to have more than enough. And that's why we can have so many good things and why we often share that with other people. And you let your child know that he or she is secure, and you also present your family as caring about others. But to me, when people are looking for that first initial step, that is usually where we will point them.
I think that's brilliant advice. And may I then weave that back to this word integration?
Mm-hmm.
The first sentence you speak to them in Freud's terms is the beginning of their integration of your meteor.
Sure. Yeah, right. It's the first time you point to the sky and say,
never
there's something up there.
Assume the meteor happens when you die.
Yeah.
No, the meteor begins when you begin this conversation. And that means these people you love are beginning a journey of a very difficult integration. Again, we say what it is. They will eventually be integrating something you created that has nothing to do with them at all, with who they are, with their selves. Whether it's the great reveal, whether it's the first discussion of money, whatever it is, if we can understand that we're beginning the process of loving them and learning to love them in this way, as Freud would say, then we're beginning to make a gift to them, not a transfer.
Yes.
Also, as I've tried to say to so many couples over the years, when this question comes up, look, this is the first conversation. It's not the only conversation.
Right.
And therefore, could you, dear clients, imagine that maybe you don't get it perfect this time?
I mean, does it ever go as planned? Most of the conversations that we try to have, they don't have the script. The kids don't have the other script, as my boss would say.
So it's exactly right. So be gentle with yourself. Be kind.
Yeah.
Understand that you're learning with them. Whoa, that's a whole lot more interesting, by the way, to be learning together than you having to be only the teacher. When you can't be the teacher because you haven't had the experience to teach the subject.
Yeah.
We've got to be kind here.
All of these topics, like this topic in particular, is a great topic for a family meeting. And I want to end on family meetings because I think we both feel that family meetings are very important.
Mm-hmm.
And the advisors seem to be resistant to some of these meetings because I think two main reasons. One is being uncomfortable facilitating it. And then two, the work that goes into preparing the family meeting. And what we're trying to say to the firms that work with us is the family meeting is the family's responsibility, not yours. And you can be a catalyst for it. You can talk about family meetings and the benefit of family meetings. You can support them. You can answer questions. You can have a part in the meeting. But the agenda, who's leading it, the planning it, all of that stuff going forward, that is the family's responsibility. And I have a few other family meeting things I want to touch on. But do you think that if we're talking to a multifamily office or an RIA that might have 100 or 200 clients, that they should be doing everything they can to empower these families to have at least an annual discussion, whether that be over Zoom or, it doesn't really matter, but do you think, how important is it to you?
Well, let me say that the purpose of a meeting, any meeting of a family, is to grow its spiritual, social, intellectual, and human self,
Right.
with the financial capital supporting the growth of the four qualitative capitals. So the first thing I would say is whoever prepares the agenda, and I agree it's better for the family, but for the moment, let's say the advisor's asked to do it, 80% of the plan for the meeting, I'll use plan very carefully here, must be on the growth of the four qualitative capitals.
Yep.
Their exposition, their discovery, and their growth. And 1/5 on the financial capital. Now, that does not mean there will not be some meetings where the financial capital is half the meeting, but that should definitely not be the first, second, or third meeting.
Right.
Because if half of the meeting is on the financial capital in the first or second or third meeting, the family has no ground for understanding what it owns, which is its spiritual, social, intellectual, and human self. So for many advisors who are basically personnes d'affaires intermediating financial capital, it is hopeless for them to create such an agenda because they have not doing it in their own families. So the agenda must there to be useful be created by someone who is interested in the qualitative flourishing of that community. That can be the family, or it could be you, or it could be a third party. But what it shouldn't be ever is done by someone who isn't interested in the questions the agenda is going to deal with.
Right.
That's ridiculous. There's no energy there.
Do you think the advisors should be doing a meeting with their own family? Is that an easier place for them to start?
Well, I'm going to say something really crazy. When someone is choosing a firm to help them, a very good question for them is, are the board members of that firm clients of your firm? What did he say? Yes, a very good question is, are the board members of your firm clients of your firm? They have families. Are they essentially participating in the development of your services to the spiritual, social, intellectual, and human capital of your clients?
Right.
And if they're not, a possible client could ask himself, well, why would I use that firm?
Mm-hmm.
If the board members of the firm are not using the services for their own families, what are they guiding? What are they boarding? What are they helping the owners learn if they're not doing it themselves?
We had Robert Ballantyne on, and
Yes.
and I think there's just so much power in seeing someone who, he worked with his father and now works with his daughter.
Yes.
That's just powerful for someone to see that.
Yes, and it suggests, can't affirm, confirm,
Suggests,
but it suggests that the people who are owning the firm are interested in the questions that the clients are actually interested in.
Right.
Well, I think that has some correlation, would you agree, to how well the services can be provided?
Right.
So if the advisor is only counting assets under management and only counting acquisition of financial capital assets to intermediate, fine. If that's the service you want, get that service. But if you want a flourishing family, then you need to have meetings that are about the family's flourishing.
You say it is not an exaggeration to say that every family that succeeds over multiple generations makes some use of family meetings. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Well, of course they do, because they want to be together. Oh, heaven forfend. Oh, dear, says the great playwright. We want to be together? Oh, my God. Really? Yes.
Sometimes we say the goal of the first family meeting is for everyone to want to have another one.
I have said that 100 times.
Right. And so that's probably where I got it. And I think those qualitative capitals, people coming in there and reading financial spreadsheets, probably not the most exciting meeting. People coming in there telling stories, talking about values, talking about their successes and failures. And whether it's 2 hours or whether it's a day, you want people saying, when are we doing that again? That was great.
And let's be very, very practical. So somebody says, okay, we're going to have a first family meeting. It's going to be a partial reveal because we're ready to do that. Okay, fine. But what ought we to do? Well, I used to say, and I still say to families, after the first meeting, which is get to know each other, understand how we're going to be thinking together toward flourishing. We have a spiritual goal that our wealth is well-being, that everyone will have a flourishing life. The first agenda item on the second meeting is to do a learning styles inventory. How do each of us learn?
It's a great idea.
Because why would we start there? Well, first of all, if you learn through words and I learn through pictures and you learn through feeling, and we're going to be handed a financial balance sheet, two of us are not incapable of reading it, but will not be learning from it. Oh, I see what he's saying. So if we're going to be a group of people out on a journey of 100 years, minimum, when we get out on the road on that journey, just like taking a hike up, we need different kind of maps because we learn differently, right? Some of us need a topo, some of us need a word map, some of us need a picture map. Of course. And we want each person to have a map in the way he or she best can tell us where the hell we're going.
Yeah.
If we know how each other learns, then at the third meeting, the materials are different for each of us.
Yeah.
We're all learning the same material, but we're receiving it in the ways we can best assimilate it. Now we're beginning to be a learning system.
Another quote is the more effort a family invests before a meeting, deciding and clarifying, the more productive it will be. And I think that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
We have to take time. If we're going to take a day or take half a day, we have to take all that time to prepare so we walk in and know what we're doing and we feel good about it. And it's a good use of our time.
Yes. And having an exercise, some form of assessment that forms a part of the meeting means that everyone leaves with new information that improves their lives.
That's right.
And again, what is that doing? That's adding to the human, intellectual, social, and spiritual experience of that family. So meetings are very important.
I know that you have a new book coming out. Do you want to tease that?
The theme of this book is the human experience in family as it is on this journey. And the key aspect of the book will be this conversation of the play is the thing. Mary Duke and Stacey Allred, who are my co-authors, and I are very, very keen to see if we can bring what I've been bringing together with you this morning to a larger group of families for them to be able to imagine that they are in a play. That's a very important part of this new book because I think, it's not only accurate that families don't have plans, they have plays. I think all three of us, and we have a combined experience of probably 120 years, the three of us, is that the sterility of the plans, because they are not flexible, they're not agile, they don't lead to anti-fragility, as our great friend Taleb wrote. The problem is if the plan is sterile, it has to be overcome, and that means a lot of energy has to be used to get to zero. We're not saying in the book, but I'll say it this morning, it's very difficult to be a constantly accreting energetic system. You have to have a large set of promises, big ones, serious ones that you're prepared to live up to. You have to make hundreds of really complex decisions together. You've got to do all kinds of intellectual learning to be prepared, and you've got to be thriving human beings. Some money supporting is useful, but that's basically what you have to do. Well, if you have a plan, which by definition is sterile, that is, it doesn't work, then you have to overcome it.
Yeah.
And just to be brutally frank, if the estate plan that you're living in was designed to do three things: avoid taxes, avoid creditors, that is, the beneficiaries don't pay their bills, that's terrible. And third, a monument to a deceased Hosmandian figure, as Percy Bysshe Shelley wrote, you probably can't overcome it.
Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah, taxes is usually number one,
and then creditors.
Yeah.
and then a monument to a deceased person. Just ask the audience for a moment, if that's what your plan was designed to do, think what your human rising people you love have to do to overcome the plan. Because they're not in that plan, by the way.
Right.
Did you hear anything about the human beings rising? They're not in the plan. You see the mess that is?
That's right. Those are all economic solutions.
But they're solutions to a dead person's problem.
Right.
I mean, no disrespect to the wealth creator. There's no a huge respect there. But the problem is all those problems are solved. But now the living must live.
When is it coming out, Jay?
Oh, probably late this spring. But you see, Alex, how awful it is to be trapped in something that never considered you.
Of course. You've said to me since the beginning, can you live in the plan? I feel like this is your attempt to answer that.
Yes, it's going beyond it and saying the answer is you can't live in the plan. So if you live in a play, then you get to create new acts.
Right. But you can live in the play. Yeah.
Well, you can live in the play.
You can be a part of the play for your time.
Then I think you can live in it. But this problem has plagued families in modernity.
Can I ask you a favor before you go?
Please.
Can we get an audiobook of it too?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to do an audiobook?
Yes, I think we will. And because so many, again, how do people learn?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I have 3 young kids. So yes. I do a lot of learning while I'm doing dishes and cleaning up toys.
Yes, we will do that.
Thank you so much for your time, Jay Hughes.
A great pleasure. Blessings on your journey.
That's it for Visionary Advisor. Thank you to James E. Hughes, one of my favorites, to Total Family, whose Family OS software is helping advisors do legacy better. If you're a fan of Visionary Advisor, please subscribe and share it with another top-notch wealth advisor like yourself. We'll see you next time.